It is my great pleasure today to speak with a very special woman, and her name is Charlie Jordan Brookins. Did I get that right?
You got that right.
Ms. Charlie Jordan Brookins, welcome to Black Women's Health Podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So, there may be a few of us that don't know about you. Give us your history.
Yeah, I'm a certified personal fitness trainer. I am a certified health coach, menopause specialist, and which just means that that's where I focus my health coaching and my fitness, particularly on menopausal sisters of faith, but really just menopausal women in general. My background is actually in the entertainment industry, but I left that to really pursue my call, which is really helping women finding greater service through greater health. Because ultimately, in order for us to have the impact that we are called to have, we need our health. And so it is really focusing in on practical, research-based tips and tools to really help us live our best, vibrant lives. And certainly in that menopausal season, joyful menopause is what I project and what I teach, and really the blueprint to help us just really live impactful, independent, vital lives for as long as we're supposed to be here.
Sure.
I have always been engaged in health, even when I worked in entertainment. I think entertainment was another call of mine, and I worked in development. I've been a writer, I've been a director, and I've worked at networks. But ultimately, it was a personal choice. I worked crazy hours. I had two young kids, and then ultimately it was a shift in terms of where I feel like I can uniquely have the most impact and the most personal satisfaction. I think in entertainment is, it's big, it's loud, it's and it's fun and all of those things. But I really was feeling like I needed to plug into areas, certainly my kids, but also in ways where I can really have a personal impact in a way that can reverberate in different ways versus just putting entertainment on TV, which was fun too.
How long ago was this change?
I left entertainment 9 years ago.
Menopausal at the time, and was that the impetus for your focus?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yes, I was transitioned, I was peri, at the time, and absolutely just, needing to focus more on my self-care. I think the reality of working in corporate entertainment, which I was at the time, my self-care was last. Because I had, young children in addition to just all of the demands of corporate entertainment. So I, definitely was losing that connection as well. So my dive into the menopause space was definitely a personal one, to really figure out what's going on. And just at that time, now it's much more noisy in the menopause space in terms of information, great information most of the time. But just there's more of an emphasis and a need, just because it's such a huge population. And I love the quote that says that, menopause, you don't go through menopause, right? You land there and you stay there for the rest of your life. And so it is a huge season for women. It can be, a third to plus of your lives. And so realizing that there wasn't the information that I needed at that time, it's not that it wasn't there, like you can dig for it. And so that really helped me take the plunge. And then just talking to my friends and just realizing how many of us were going through things and just didn't have the information, the lifestyle information.
So I'm curious, because I hear that often. Did you discuss this with your gynecologist, or were you getting no information, or was it confusing information at the time?
Yeah, I think it was not enough information, right? I mean, that I was blessed that my symptoms were not huge. And I think that was a part of my self-care. So it wasn't so much that that I was like, I nobody sat down and said, this is what you could experience, during this season. So I think that that's really more what it was, is there was no runway to prepare you for the possibilities of what it was. And, I had a girlfriend who, she was told that she had ADHD, and it really was perimenopause. So there's so many of these, different things. And the reality is, just it's the education is now becoming, much more prevalent and promising and exciting. But it really was just not having the preparation. My mother, my grandmother, and my sister all had hysterectomies, so their menopause experience was different than mine was going to be, and so they didn't have anything for me. So it really is, it's having the pathway, having the runway to know what could happen or know what's going on with your body. Nobody talked about your ovaries shutting down, right? Nobody talked about, how estrogen impacts your entire system.
Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting because that's all very true. But I'm also thinking, do we ever do that for anyone at any stage of their life? Meaning, do we talk to young girls about starting their menstrual cycle and what to expect? Do we talk to pregnant women about pregnancy? Not, and all the changes that go through. So it's a very interesting comment. It's very valid because you're right. Women kind of get to this stage in life and it's like, well, what does it mean?
Yes.
What do I do? What am I supposed to do? What can I expect? No one, but I think our healthcare system is such that we aren't proactive in that type of way. And if I'm hearing women correctly, they're saying we need that type of information, and that's what you picked up on also, correct?
Absolutely. Because even I've talked to women, and when I say, what stage are you in? So women in their 40s, 50s, 60s plus, and they say, I don't know. Meaning that there still isn't enough clarity about what menopause even is, right? That menopause is really 12 months without a period, right? I mean, that's what menopause is. It's a reflective. But when I talk to someone in their 60s and they don't know where they are, again, it's just, I think with when you get your period and with pregnancy, there's so much knowledge out there in the media, in just your family, that you know what to expect, right? Or your mother, when you got your period, helped you through that. You may get so there's enough things and information in the home, and just information just available in the general public, and especially about pregnancy because of TV. And I mean, there's just so many, the media, there's so much.
It's that isolation piece,
Yes.
things are happening. I'm not quite sure if I Google, there's just all of this information and how do I take it in and how does it relate to me?
Yes. And
So,
I think informationally, yes. And then I think, just that social piece, that socialization, that you're not alone. And most importantly, just understanding what is going on with your body. I think there's not enough understanding about the impact of estrogen deficiency on the woman's body. And because estrogen, literally, we think of it as a sex organ or a sex hormone, but the receptors are everywhere. So there's a lot of things that change that are all connected that don't feel connected. Like, why should I have joint pain? Because I'm in menopause, right? But because you have more inflammation. So those connections are not there. And so it just feels like these random occurrences are happening in your body when actually they're not random. They're connected to the fact that estrogen is not talking to those areas the way it used to.
yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. There are estrogen receptors throughout the body, so it is a total body
Yeah.
experience. It's not just limited to the female parts. So, but back to your story, you were perimenopausal.
Yes.
Did you know you were perimenopausal at that time?
Not really. And it's funny because my girlfriend who has the exact same birthday and year, she was having hot flashes, and I was like, oh, and I was having hot flashes and didn't even realize it. Like I didn't make the connection. I was just getting hot. So then I was like, oh wow, okay, this is going on. And then, the anxiety and the brain fog and the moodiness and just the lack of patience and the lack of motivation, all of those things, started to come. And then I made more of a connection to, oh, okay. Because sometimes, I mean, like the mood shifts, for me
That's
were larger.
interesting. And so what did you do next? You finally said, oh, this might be perimenopause.
Yeah, exactly. But because then I was like, oh, okay. And then I started to do that research in terms of, oh, all of these things are all symptomatic. It's not just me. And I think that that's so important is to not think that you're going crazy or that you because you feel like it's an out of body experience. I'm like, I am not acting like myself, and I don't have the control over that. So what understanding what is at the root, and so that's an epiphany. And then it's like, okay, now I can take action steps because now I know what actually is going on with my body.
So can we keep going with your story? What did you do next?
Yeah. Yeah, well, on that front, it was about, I ended up getting a certification because I really wanted to understand it at a deeper level, not just for myself, but because I had like Fit Through Faith is my umbrella company, and I had that since 2006. So I was doing that in addition to, what the other things I was doing. But in terms of really focusing in on the menopause space, I was like, I need a deeper understanding. So I did a certification so that I really understood the nitty gritty. And then I was all about just getting information, right? Speaking to women in addition to, making sure I'm listening to qualified medical professionals and just doing, and just, I'm a research, like if I think it, I need to understand how it connects. And so I do a ton of research just to make sure that everything makes sense and understanding the shifts that I needed to make, that the reason why, the belly is expanding is not necessarily just food related, just how hormones were impacting that. And, how you have to shift the way you eat and how you shift your fitness and, how protein becomes more important. So all of those things, magnesium, like what are the important, because I don't like to do a lot of supplements. I like to get my supplements from food. But what are the things that I need during this season? So it was really about diving into the unique needs of us as women, and certainly as Black women. We have our own unique needs, especially because of, as you well know, how we're predisposed to so many of the chronic diseases. So we have to really be vigilant about realizing we don't have to, the things that worked when we were in our 20s and 30s don't work the same way, in our 40s, 50s, and 60s. So understanding that, I was able to make a shift and really get back into what felt like my body, in addition to just feel better.
Okay. So, I mean, you are to be commended in the fact that you did your research to
Yes.
figure out what is this thing that they call menopause and how can I best deal with it. Did you start hormonal replacement?
So, what's interesting about hormone replacement is that I have yet to go on hormone replacement. And I say that yet because I am 59. And I, hormonal replacement became real in my life, probably in the past 3 years in terms of it being, something that even to consider, or even that it's really become something that's promoted and something that is positive and something that can really have an impact on symptoms. Because by that time, my symptoms are not, I control my symptoms with lifestyle. But I'm also, because I am longer into, my postmenopause, these are the questions that I'm going to be asking now is, should I be taking it, for my bones, for other things? Because I don't need it for my symptoms because I control my symptoms with lifestyle. but are there other reasons that I should be taking it, now that I'm, close to 60?
You said something very provocative in that you are able to manage your symptoms through a holistic approach.
Yes.
What was that?
So the holistic approach is around the way I eat, the way I move, and the way I sleep. I mean, those are really, when I talk about, kind of my joyful menopause toolkit, it's about power and purpose, right? Really being rooted in what time of life it is and that you still have a purpose, right? And so really, mindset wise, looking at this as the best, like your ladder shall be greater. Like this can be the best season because we have wisdom, we have all these other things, and a lot of us have children out of the house, or so really looking at mindset wise as this can be our greatest season. And then protein and plants. So it is a time where protein becomes important, and really becomes the priority of the macronutrients. All the macronutrients are important, but making sure that we have high quality protein because the goal is really our muscle mass, right? And maintaining that muscle mass. And so when I talk, my food is, protein focused, and then with also plants and colorful antioxidants and all the things that we need, the fiber that we need. So really focusing in on protein and plants for that protein and that fiber. And then when it comes to physical activity, we have to lift weights. Right. I mean, the reality is that we're losing bone density, we're losing muscle mass as the decades continue. So we need to make sure that we are not just lifting the easy weights, just for our health, but that we're doing specific compound movements with heavier weights to make sure that we are building that muscle mass, because all of those things impact our insulin sensitivity, impacts our blood sugar regulation, impacts our mood, just that aspect, the physical activity, adding, making sure that we're walking, making sure that we're lifting heavier weights. All of those things have an impact on those symptoms. And then after that, we look at our stress and our sleep. I call it 3PS. We need to sleep. And I still, suffer from sleep disruption. I can get to sleep, but I'm still waking up. But you have to prioritize getting to bed at a regular time, and doing all that you can to maintain that sleep and reduce that stress. So that 3PS with the power and the purpose, protein and plants, physical activity, and stress and recovery are, kind of the modes that I use for myself personally, and also that I teach with my clients, because those things can absolutely have an impact. Now there is some supplementation that, I always, kind of point people back, certainly towards their medical professionals, or, there's certain like magnesium, there's creatine, there's certain supplements that are just kind of widely promoted for your muscle health, that I do talk about. But the main thing is there are lifestyle things that can have a significant impact on the symptoms you experience.
We know that the average age of menopause is 51, and we know that perimenopause can sometimes start as early as age 40.
Yeah.
That's the time when women are working, they're taking care of their family, they may have young kids, they may have kids in high school, they may have elderly parents that they're taking care of. They're, trying to juggle a lot. So
Yes.
what do you say to that woman who is working, who has a family, who has responsibilities, that doesn't have the luxury of going for a 30-minute walk, or doesn't feel as though, I should say,
Yes.
doesn't
Yes.
feel as though the luxury? Where does she find the time,
Yes.
knowing that often home responsibilities are the burden that women
Yes.
have to deal with?
Absolutely. And I think, especially during the holiday season, because they're biologically, the research says that our bodies want to slow down, our bodies want to crave, our bodies want to hibernate. So we're fighting that as well. So in addition to menopause symptoms and all of the other things that you mentioned, we've got the biology part too. So what I say is, number one is we have to ditch the all or nothing mentality. Oftentimes we're like, well, if I can't walk for 30 minutes, I'm not going to walk at all. Or if I can't get to the gym, then I can't do anything. And so we need to lose that and say, what about something? So we can't do 30 minutes, or we feel like we can't find 30 minutes, which I would argue that you can. But if that's the feeling, then what are we doing throughout the day? There's something called NEAT. It's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So you don't need to know like the technical term, but NEAT is just moving, right? So you have, I say, enjoy your temple, move it every way you can, anytime you can. So you can have an attitude of movement throughout the day. Great ways to actually get the most benefit is get a move for 10 minutes after you eat. So after you eat, go for a 10-minute walk, or after a meeting, go for a 10-minute walk. That's one way that, again, it has an impact on, it adds up to your steps, right? It also will have an impact on your blood sugar, which will, again, help sustain you throughout the day. So that's like looking at what can I do versus can't. You can take the steps. You can park and walk farther away. You can put, while you're, cooking, put on a weighted vest, right? And get more, that's going to be good for your bones. That's going to burn more calories. Whatever you're doing while you're cleaning up, so you can add things in while you're actually doing other things that can have a benefit for your bones, for your muscles, for your heart, and all of those things. Push-ups. I love push-ups. I'm actually in the middle of doing a push-up challenge. And because you can do push-ups, on a countertop, right? It's when you contract your muscles, you actually release feel good, myokines in your system, and you start to build that muscle. So squats, there's research that says doing 10 squats at every 45 minutes is similar to, walking for a half hour or something. It's something close to that. I will have to double check my research on that. But, getting some squats in, it's about having a mentality of every opportunity that I have to move my body, I'm going to move it. And when it comes to the food part, I really encourage people to focus in on breakfast, right? That getting that 30 grams of protein for breakfast will help you start your day. Now it's hard to get, kind of that the amount of grams of protein that ideally we need, kind of getting up to that like 100 grams a day. But if we win at breakfast, right, start there and then we build. So I think that the biggest thing is just not all or nothing. We don't have to do all of these things at the same time.
The comments I've heard in the past, such as, I'm not a breakfast person. Or someone who's really committed to their health says something like, I'm doing intermittent fasting, and so I only start eating around noon. The recommendations are multiple, and they have to be tailored to each woman.
Absolutely.
And that's where, and like you said, and all of that is predicated on her having an understanding of what's going on in her body.
And I think that's the key. It's the connection that is often missing. When I say breakfast, I usually also say first meal of the day. So whatever your first meal of the day, whenever you have it, because you're breaking your fast whether you have it at 12 or whether you have it at 9 or 7. So I think the key is whatever that first meal of the day is, when your body is most catabolic, when it's ready to receive nutrients. That's when you want to be most mindful about what nutrients you're putting in your body, right? And making sure you're filling in all through the night. Your body's been cleaning up and it's been doing all these things and it's ready to receive some nutrients. And understanding that, it's like, well, why would I put a donut in my mouth if my body is ready to receive some great nutrients to rebuild and to restructure and to give me energy and all those things? But it's understanding that aspect of, I think we just wake up and we eat, or we fast and we just eat, not thinking about what's going on with our body and what our body really needs. And that's the key, especially in this season. Absolutely. Because we have to be really aware of building things back up because we're losing things. So the quality of our nutrients we need to be more mindful about that. But that's connecting with what it is going on, what's going on with my body. And so that's that personal. And my goal is just building a personal relationship with your muscle, with your body, so that you know that you have the power to, your body rebuilds itself and what you put in your body and how you move your body impacts that.
Absolutely. How do you help her optimize her situation?
Yeah, and I agree. And it is about, I don't even like the word diet because die is in it. So I don't like to use that term. I really like to talk about what our body needs and why it needs it. So instead of, obviously there are 50,000 diets out there. But what are the building blocks that your body needs during the season? And protein is a big part of that. Healthy fat is a big part of that. Fiber is a big part of that. And really, if we can talk about, I'm not going to tell you what to put on your plate and, or what not, but I am going to give you the things, the buffet that you should be selecting from. Now, how you do that is how you kind of, rock your lifestyle.
Right,
But these are the things that should be on your buffet.
right. Puzzle. So each woman is her own unique puzzle.
Yes,
And I would imagine you have a very fascinating career now because you have to look at this puzzle and try to optimize her health based on the pieces that she's giving you.
absolutely. And I think the great thing about coaching is that I call it's like you're the guide on the side.
Mm,
Everyone I work with, they have all of the answers, right? They know what they're supposed to be doing. They just don't know quite how to make it work for them, or it just feels too overwhelming. Or there may be some inputs that are still necessary, but it is so individual, because for example, some people have texture issues. So while Greek yogurt has a lot of protein, and some people don't do dairy. And so, so it is, kind of here's the laundry list of things to choose from. But let's define what will work for you. I used to be a vegan, now I'm a non-dairy pescatarian. So and and I only use those words just to make it easy to understand, but I don't care about all of that, right? What I do care about is that I get high quality protein, that I get good fiber source, that I'm getting my omegas, I mean, what that I'm getting the needs that my body needs now in this season. So that's what's more important than defining, what it is. So I think it's exciting to when you find it for yourself. But the most important thing is when you connect with, oh, this is what my body needs. And when you get there, I will be walking around my kitchen, and where I might want something sweet, it's like, do I really want something sweet? I'll stop myself and say, is that what I really want? Yeah, no, I actually want some almonds, and the almonds are fine, right? But you get to that point. Our systems are so clogged up with all this ultra processed food and all the things that we don't even know what we want. That we can't even hear,
yeah,
the intelligence of our body telling us what it needs because it's all mucked up. And so if we can just get to a point where we're so intelligent, like our bodies are so intelligent, they will tell us what we need and what we don't need.
yeah. Okay. Do you have any special advice or considerations for Black women?
Be kind to yourself. Have grace. I mean, I think that the reality is that when it comes to, and you know this so well, when it comes to all these chronic diseases, we over-index in everything, right? Our stress is higher. Our bodies are predisposed to, obesity and type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure in ways that we can't even count, right? And so it's so important, especially during this season, that we love on ourselves, right? It's very difficult to make change when you are not happy with who you are, right? When you're disappointed, like, why would you even do it? Right? If you don't think that you are a Rolls Royce, if you don't think that you're fantastic, if you don't understand all that you have to give, why would you even make the change? Why would you even do things that are uncomfortable, that are going to make you shift, even though ultimately you'll feel better? So I think ultimately as Black women, we have to love on ourselves and we have to love each other, but we really have to have some grace for all that we do, who we are, so that the changes that are important to make in our health, that we embrace them because there's still more to give, right? But we have to take care of ourselves first.
So it starts with how we feel about ourselves.
It's about loving on ourselves, like from in appreciating the gift that we are, right? We are gifts. I'm from a spiritual perspective. We are a gift. And so really we beat ourselves up a lot, because we're trying to do everything and be everybody. And we have to like honor, and I think it starts with that love. It starts with that self-love,
What
and
do
then
you
we build
say
from
to
there.
the woman that says, I don't feel like a gift?
Well, that's the beginning. That's the beginning of unpeeling. What does that mean? Why don't you feel like you're a gift? And you look at the things that you do. Look at the impact that you have. Then let's have that conversation again. Right? And look at who God gifted you to be. Let's start there. And then let's look at really where is that coming from? But most importantly, looking at what the reality is, because that's a mindset thing.
The
We get
mindset.
down on ourselves.
Yes. Yes. But there is hope. And I think you touched on it, and it deserves to be highlighted that a lot of your work is faith-based.
Yeah, I mean, faith is a part, because I call it the joyful menopause blueprint, because the importance of faith is really the foundation for those who are spiritual people. If you disconnect the actions that you need to take from your faith, it's harder to keep them going, right? Because faith is is the foundation. So meaning joy is, in biblically, the joy of the Lord is your strength, right? So connecting to that joy, connecting to those things, connecting to your purpose, that you have a purpose, that in order to have that impact, you need your help to execute that. And in menopause, we don't want to disconnect joy from the experience of this season, right? So because for me, my joy number is 96. So when I'm 96, my younger son will be 50. And so I want to dance into his 50th party. I'm not going to be wheeled in. I'm not going in on a cane. I'm going to dance in. And
Okay.
because I have that connection to my joy number of 96, I'm going to do some squats today, right? But I'm going to do it not just because I enjoy doing them, but because it's also spiritually, it's an act of worship, because I am actually this temple that I've been gifted with. I am actually continuing to make it better, right? And that is giving glory. That is worship. So it's all connected in that way, but it is all about making sure, yes, I want to be independent, but be specific of why do I want to do that? I'm doing this for a very specific reason, right? Just for the joy of it, and certainly spiritually, but also because I have a goal. And that's the other thing that I help my clients, why are you doing this?
Right, right. And what do you say to those that say, but I'm not Christian? I don't, I practice some other religion,
Absolutely.
or
It's
I'm
it's
agnostic.
Yeah, I think it is difficult. It's certainly not about Christianity. That's my faith lens. I always encourage anyone who listens to me to take it through their faith lens, because it is about looking at something other than yourself, that your purpose is bigger than just you. Because when we're just doing things for ourselves, we will disappoint ourselves, we will let ourselves down because it's just me, right? But when we look at the big picture, when we look at how we impact the world, when we look at service, when we look at whatever spiritual lens we may have, then that's the bigger picture of why we need to make sure that we are making our biggest contribution.
Okay, do you have any parting words for us? Or, let me just say this. When you were talking about your faith and your religion, my mind went to the older women that we would see in church, okay? And the mothers
Yes,
in church.
yes,
And these were powerful, strong, inspiring women who had already gone through the change,
yes,
already gone through that journey, and they were still standing.
yes,
So for me, and I think you said this earlier, this is not a death sentence. This is not a punishment. There are women in our lives that show us that there is joy and life
yes.
beyond this menopausal change.
Yes, there's an Asian proverb that, or not proverb, but there's, and I'm not sure exactly which Asian country, but they look at menopause as the second bloom. And I love that. Like every time I think
Nice.
about that, because that's really what it is. It's an opportunity. I say it's God's
Opportunity.
opportunity for you to engage in your self-care because estrogen is no longer taking care of you the way that she used to. So this is your opportunity to do it for yourself, right? And ultimately for others in greater service.
Go through. So thank you. I've really
No, thank
enjoyed
you.
speaking with you. Please let women know how they can reach you, get in contact with you, website, please.
Absolutely. So, well, Fit Through Faith are the main is my company, and it's THRU. So on Facebook, it's Fit Through Faith. I have a group called the Fit Through Faith Village. On Instagram, it's Fit Through Menopause because we're really focusing in on the menopause space in there. My website is fitthroughfaith.com, and my YouTube is also Fit Through Faith.
Okay. Thank you. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Okay,
You too. Take care.
bye.
If you're interested in hearing more and having us do deep dives into interesting and controversial topics, I invite you to stay tuned and to share with at least one girlfriend. Until the next time, take care.